The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Nice and quiet. And check it out, the door doesn't fall off anymore. I somewhat fixed the door with a nice little setup with some duct tape and a paper clip hidden in there. See, one of the good things about rebuilding or bringing back the silver bullet is that I got to take a look at its properly attached door and see how this used to work. So I thought that the top of the door was like the bottom of the door, where there's just a hole drilled for the thing to go in. Then I was thinking, how would you put the door on if you just drilled 2 holes? So I took a closer look at the door, and I noticed there's a little bendable tab right here that you can bend down while putting the door on, and then bend it back up or have it snap back up so the door actually stays on. So I kind of mimicked that with a paper clip and a bunch of duct tape, and the door has worked pretty well so far. I can use better materials for the metal bit if I need to, if this turns out to be a little too flimsy. However, this is not what I'm here to talk about today. What I'm here to talk about today, as soon as I switch my white balance away from Smurfavision here, is Steam in-home streaming. Put your PC to work. Just found out about this morning. This, of course, is one of Gabe Newell's little toys, shall we say. Well, actually, one of the times I was on Out of Continues way back when, last year, I think, one of the times I was on Out of Continues, we actually talked about in-home streaming and the potential that this technology has in terms of helping PCs regain their footing as multimedia devices in the home, like streaming games and stuff like that. Or you could have a powerful gaming PC that you remote access from anywhere you'd want to play video games in the house and have it work that way. Well, this is a start right here. Now, I've experimented with some in-home streaming before, using some goofball setup of Splashtop remote desktop software and Input Director to fix some issues with the mouse in games that are streamed over Splashtop. But this is now built right into Steam, and I've played around with it a little, and I think it's a mixed bag. I think it still needs work, but at least it's available for people who want to get it working to get it working. So let's go take a look at some Steam games as they are streamed to my piece of junk netbook, which doesn't have the horsepower to play a lot of games. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to experiment with this on the netbook on a wired connection, and then we're going to go somewhere where I can actually have some space to try it out on wireless from a little further away. Now, I could try this on the Silver Bullet. The only issue is that this is a Windows XP machine, so I don't trust it with anything that requires actual logons. Eventually I'll resolve this OS issue, or I'll have a desktop that I want to try this stuff out on, but for now, we're just going to try the crappy old netbook here. So let's get this thing on the tripod and get to work. The way you get everything working is you make sure that everything's hooked up, that the computers involved are hooked up on the same network and the same subnet. There's no fancy network support as of yet. So they basically have to be in the same part of your home network. And then what you do is you go into Steam and go to this part that says in-home streaming in the account settings. And then if both the machines can see each other and you don't have firewall issues, they'll hook up automatically and everything will start up. There are some issues that have to be worked out, though. So we're going to go through some games here and show you some of the issues with them. Beginning with the biggest disappointment so far. Yeah, stuff falling all over the place here. What just fell? Oh, that was just some oil stuff. Alright, first issue is that controller support is terrible. I think you need one of the newer direct input controllers in order to run things. So we're going to try running a game that requires controller support and show you just how this needs a lot of work. Alright, so here we are in Burnout Paradise, pushing buttons and nothing is happening. I think it might have something to do with my controllers, because I'm using older controllers that don't have the direct input capability or something like that. I don't know, but anyways, I think it just needs a little work, because controller support didn't work with the last in-home streaming setup that I tried fiddling around with, so, yeah. So that's basically probably what's going on here. I have tried all kinds of setups. I've tried taking the controller I use over there, over here, vice versa, controller here, plugging it in over there, trying to have a controller plugged into both computers, in case it was sending the controller input, quote-unquote, from the netbook to the main system, but unfortunately I'm getting no results. Maybe it's something to do with the games, Maybe it's something to do with whether the controller supports direct stuff or something like that. Or maybe Valve just needs to do some more work with this technology. Alright, enough wasting our time here with Burnout Paradise. Here's Portal, running quite well, if I do say so myself.
All subjects intending to handle high-energy gamma-leaking portal technology must be informed that they may be informed of applicable regulatory compliance issues. No further compliance information is required or will be provided, and you are an excellent test subject.
Oh, oops. Yeah, here we go. Oof, come on. Of course, I did get the achievement for falling really fast already, so... Frame rate is excellent. The frame rate is excellent, being streamed over a wired network right now, and the graphics settings are largely intact, so it's looking good for Portal on here. Of course, I am kind of being a little cheesy here and using a Valve game, so some folks would be like, oh yeah, well, it's a Valve game. Of course it works really well. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that on some of these games, you still see activity on your main monitor. So, the big thing to do is, unless you want people watching you play the game, then turn off the monitor or something like that on the main system. Of course, most folks probably will. So, alright. So that's Portal. Let's try some other games here. Okay, one thing I definitely can recommend is have another streaming solution available in case this glitches or you have to adjust something outside of Steam, because Steam only does the streaming when the game's actually running. So if you have to, say, change a setting or something like that, you may have to use something like Splashtop or something like that to connect to the computer the other way and fix up all the settings. So that's what I'm pretty much doing here, because the settings for Skyrim just got reset, so I'm going around to my other computer here through Splashtop to turn on GeForce Experience and set everything back to optimal for Skyrim. So it's a little glitchy at times, and there was a time earlier when I had Dirt 3 fail to launch, which might have something to do with the multiple levels of DRM in that game. I had Dirt 3 fail to launch, and that messed everything up for streaming until I direct connected to the computer and then fixed everything outside of Steam. So the technology still needs some work. Without a shadow of a doubt, the technology still needs some work here. But if you have something like Splashtop, you can connect up and you can fix things and then go back to Steam, and so that way you don't have to keep walking back and forth between the computer you're streaming to and the computer that you want to play your games on. Speaking of Skyrim, now one thing worth noting, and one thing that I like about the whole Steam thing, is that if you have a game that has a pop-up start window like this, and you connect to the game, and you stream the game, it'll actually full screen that pop-up window, which might help if you're running things on a big TV or something like that. Yeah, one of my mods is a little out of date, oh well. And actually the latency when poking around in Windows on a Steam stream, try saying that 3 times fast. One of the latency is actually better than it is with Splashtop. So I'm tossing around the idea, actually, of seeing if I can get a game to show me the desktop, and poke around in the desktop that way as well, instead of using Splashtop. But as we can see here, Skyrim actually has its startup thing full screened. So it's not just sitting in the middle of a truncated screen that's being streamed to you. And in this case, limited to the resolution of what I'm watching it on. In this case, 720p instead of the usual 1080p. There we go. Skyrim! Yay! With my eye candy still turned on. A little bit choppy. But according to the Steam error readouts and stuff like that, I'm having some problems with some of the encoding and decoding and stuff. But this is running at... This is actually optimized with the GeForce Experience program, so the graphics settings are turned way up. Alright, Chocobo time, Chocobo mod, and we have the caps lock problems that we've had before. Oh, wait a minute. No, wait, we got some problems here. Alright, some UI problems, or it's just me using this... Okay, there we go. Mod glitch. Alright, so we're streaming okay, and of course this netbook definitely can't handle This netbook most certainly can't handle Skyrim. It's not even close to being able to handle Skyrim properly. But the game seems to be working quite fine. The only issue here is, of course, if you use caps lock for anything and you're playing this on a system that does something like this whenever you hit buttons, well, yeah, you're going to be seeing that quite a bit. Otherwise, oh yeah, looking quite nice. Looking quite nice and streaming quite well. I'd say this is definitely streaming better than the old Splashtop setup that I had. Next up, let's try some games that are not part of Steam and see how they perform as well. Streaming games that are not actual Steam games isn't officially supported, and it's kind of pokey at this point. But let's try my two big MMOs, Guild Wars 2 and World of Warcraft, and we'll see just how this all handles everything. World of Warcraft is awful when streamed through Steam. Look at how awful these frame rates are. Slideshows galore. If we were playing this locally, the frame rate would be smooth as butter. And there's some glitches with full screen mode. Full screen mode doesn't run very well. Yeah, good flashing your healing spells there. Full screen mode does not run on here. You just keep staring at the Battle.net launcher. You have to go to windowed full screen mode and take a performance loss in order to even see the game in the first place. Now, here is the issue. Some people may be like, well, maybe turn the graphics settings down, and the official Steam FAQs actually recommend that you do that. But, however, let me turn it down to low mode, and as you can see, I am still getting an absolutely abysmal frame rate. This is in low mode. Let's try turning the resolution down in case the resolution is affecting the stream. So let's drop all the way down to, let's see if 1024 by 768 will work. There we go. 1024 by 768, and it's still a slideshow. Or, wait a minute. Why does it say, no, it says 1024 by 768. Maybe because it's windowed full screen, it's forcing it to be that size. However, if I switch to, I guess we might as well just set it back. Either way, if I switch to full screen mode, I'm only going to see the Battle.net window in my desktop. So definitely some compatibility issues with WoW. As opposed to Guild Wars 2. Starts right up, runs quite well. A little clunky to get going, though. I actually had the system think that I was logging in from a different computer, so it was a little clunky to get going, but as you can see, the performance is great, and this time around, less mouse lag. There's less mouse lag. Yeah, there's a good one. Less mouse lag. Focus. This time around, there is less mouse lag. And it runs quite a bit better, too. And I don't have to run Input Director in order to get this working. Matter of fact, I think I can uninstall Input Director because a lot of games that I'd want to stream like this are going to run quite well with the Steam streaming. The biggest issue here is that this technology has quite a bit of potential, but it is still, I'd say, at beta stage. And I think, actually, that this technology actually is officially still in beta stage. So, Valve still has obviously some things to polish up. The controller support being one of them. But yeah, most certainly. This technology has some very serious potential. It'd be nice to kick back and relax on the couch in the living room and play some games on a gaming PC that I might have in a dedicated gaming room. And you know what this also reminds me of? This also reminds me a bit of some corporate IT setups, like if you ever worked in a place that uses a mainframe and terminals and stuff, where one machine does most of the heavy lifting and then people just access it from elsewhere. If you go to all the trouble to make a really nice computer, why should you stop gaining the benefit of all that hardware just because you happen to be somewhere else in the house or the building or what have you? So input issues aside, this technology has some real serious potential, even if it keeps messing up the focus on my camera here. So, alright. Now let's try something a little bit more in line with what this technology was made for. Let's actually put this thing on the wireless and see how well this streaming holds up. Alright, we're now connected over a very crappy Rosewheel Wireless N wireless network, 150 megs per second. Let's see if that's good enough to run games over wireless in the living room.
Welcome to Test Chamber 4. You're doing quite well.
Yeah, I'd say it works. Working A-OK over... Oh, that's right. Yeah, oh, yeah, that's right. There's no second part of the portal gun at this stage. Yeah, we're getting some pretty decent speed over wireless, but this is Portal. This is a game that came out in 2007. Bonus points for featuring that song in one of these videos, finally. Anywho. Yeah. Works A-OK. What if I get Unreal Tournament 99 to work? Oh, let's knock off the camera.
To ensure the safe performance of all authorized activities, do not destroy vital testing apparatus.
Yeah. Anywho. Skyrim still seems to be running okay over wireless somewhat, but I'm getting some error messages like I got slow decode down in the corner, so part of the system's struggling with this. Yeah, now I'm starting to get some chuggier frame rates. Could also be the case, too, that this netbook needs a little more horsepower, and I should get out the proper laptop instead of trying to run games on the worst computer in the whole place. Yeah. Yes, I like this Chocobo mod. It's playable, but it could be better. And Guild Wars 2. Still fine over wireless. Despite being an unsupported game. Although, why did I run back to this last time? Or, weird, I thought I moved, maybe I got sent to the nearest waypoint or something like that. Caps lock thing is still an issue, so if you have caps lock bound for any of your controls, there'll be some issues with that. Die, snow troll! Yeah. Cool, I got a bone chip from that. Bit of an issue though, using this little tiny netbook keyboard with its bad home row bumps. One of the things I do in these games, I actually use ASDF as a home row because I'm used to touch typing. So I take touch typing stuff and I apply it to games. But it doesn't work so well with this little tiny keyboard with little tiny bumps on the F and the J keys. Used to something bigger that's easier to find when you've been twitching your fingers around like this and you gotta be like, okay, what button was where again? But yeah, Guild Wars 2 runs quite well. Looks pretty good too. For an unsupported game, I'd say Guild Wars 2 is definitely the best. But then again, I am kind of biased here. I did only compare this game to World of Warcraft. And Test Drive Unlimited 2 wouldn't even work properly because of the darn controller thing. Anywho, time to wrap things up here. Thus, to wrap things up, in-home streaming is a technology that needs work, big time. But it has plenty of potential, and it is most certainly worth keeping an eye on to see where this technology goes from here. As for now, if you want more information or to hear me talk about this stuff a little more, if I can turn off my Smurf-a-vision once again, check out Out of Continues episode 75 from about a year ago, Can PC Gaming Save PCs? This was the episode that I jokingly referred to as the Gabe Newell Special, because a lot of my contributions to the discussion in Out of Continues episode 75 was based on a speech that Gabe Newell gave at a conference that year about technologies like in-home streaming and the potential that in-home streaming has. And it most certainly has potential. One of the biggest things that needs to be dealt with, though, there absolutely cannot be a learning curve if in-home streaming is to go mainstream. Techies don't mind learning curves, but everybody else hates them. There cannot be a learning curve to any of this if any of this is to ever go mainstream and give consoles a run for their money. And that, as they say, is that. And I absolutely cannot figure out for the life of me why this camera just makes everything so orange, and I have to keep changing the white balance like this. That's more like it. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.